It brings me no pleasure to bring you the worst news of the entire year. No matter if you were having the time of your life or have been at your lowest point, it doesn't get much more disappointing than this. That great franchise that you grew up to love, admire, and aspire to escape to is heading towards the peak of its destruction to the likes of which we have never seen. I am a staunch believer that Disney has massacred Star Wars beyond repair, but it's all about to get so much worse. Deadline has confirmed that the Skywalker saga will be extended through another trilogy under the leadership of the Emperor of Lucasfilm herself, Kathleen Kennedy. Now, the absolute worst case scenario would be to follow a continuation of Rey's story, right? Well, surprisingly enough, insiders have struck down this idea that this is a continuation of the story of the Skywalkers. If that's so, then why on earth is it branded within that saga through the episode system? Clearly, episodes 1 to 6 is all about the Skywalkers, Anakin, Luke, Leia. And unfortunately, through the sequels, you follow the demise of Luke Skywalker and the uprise of Rey Skywalker, which I fail to call her that. That's absolutely ridiculous. But KK secretly knows that this is the only way she's going to get helpless fans in the seats. I was starting to think that she might take a turn for the better after the most recent colossal failure of Leslie Headland's disastrous run of The Acolyte. However, it looks like she hasn't learned a thing from her unending failures as a leader, for she has found another favorable victim to manipulate into writing and producing this next bombshell trilogy, who goes by the name of Simon Kinberg. Kinberg's palette of experience in the film world ranges from his directorial, writing, and producing tenure within Hollywood. Now, with all honesty, most of it is a serious cause for concern. First off, he has been a primary figure responsible for the downfall of Fox's X-Men film series. Kinberg wrote, produced, and directed the worst X-Men film in the franchise, X-Men Dark Phoenix. For anybody that's seen it, it's an absolute disaster. And the series at this point had tons of excitement and energy behind it, which caused a surge in popularity for the new cast of young actors, helming the roles of prominent Marvel characters, such as Professor X, Magneto, Cyclops, and Phoenix. However, this next installment fell so hard that it ended the entire series. It had completely butchered the promising direction the young X-Men were moving towards. And in the end, it suffered from a dull, cookie-cutter script, which inevitably stunted the performance of its once compelling cast. Kinberg also wrote and crafted the screenplay for the notoriously forgotten Marvel film of the 21st century, Fantastic Four, starring Miles Teller. Of course, like all of these Fantastic Four films are just titled Fantastic Four. This is the one with Miles Teller, and this is the one featuring the worst miscast opportunity of any of the Marvel movies to date. This atrocious rendition employed an entire team of miscast talent to represent four colorful characters in the bleakest fashion possible. The film managed to bore the senses in every way possible, giving us a dark, bland color palette and story. This film went on to be the most forgettable Marvel adaptation brought to the film scene. Now, even more concerningly than the entire lot, he was brought into Lucasfilm as a consultant for J.J. Abrams' Tale of Star Wars, Episode 7, Force Awakens. This film, which I title as The Beginning of the End, set the framework for the decimation of all that we cherished in Star Wars. And I can't imagine that his advice could have possibly improved that production in any way possible either. Just because the next two sequels got worse and worse does not excuse the initial force that sent this roller coaster into its doom. Now, I know I'm all doom and gloom here, and really, we all should be because of what they've done to Star Wars since 2012 under the tyranny of Disney. There is still a little bit of hope that we could pull from this, as long as Kathleen Kennedy stays miles away from it. He has had some successful titles to his credit, though. He produced all three of the Deadpool films, including the newest one with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. He also wrote the screenplay and story of X-Men Days of Future Past and X-Men Apocalypse. And honestly, I loved both of those movies. I really loved Days of Future Past, and I was kind of into Apocalypse for some reason. I'm not gonna lie, I think it sort of just got my foot in the door with a new cast of X-Men, which I thought were really good. I thought they really nailed the new cast of X-Men, except Jennifer Lawrence. I thought she was a terrible Mystique. He also co-created Star Wars Rebels alongside Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck. Even though there was a lot of air and wasted time in the series, I thought it made some interesting choices that successfully explored George Lucas's story from the time of the original trilogy. That is all of his exceptional credits, though. Now, you're probably wondering, why doesn't Lucasfilm just hire a writer and producer who's had tons of smash hits in Hollywood, right? I mean, a lot of these names just kind of come to mind. Why did this guy get the job? Well, there's a reason why he's doing this, and there's a reason why they did that. Because they've looked everywhere else, but no one is interested. For the few that actually made the headlines years ago for their involvement in future projects, none of these have seen the light of day. For instance, the newest Rey film has been juggling writers and has seemingly scared off its latest talent, Stephen Knight. He's going on to do much better things though, and I couldn't be more happy for his wise choice to get out of there. Now, I'm afraid this project isn't going anywhere, and it was bound to happen eventually, because Kathleen Kennedy is looking for a massive success to leave behind before the door hits her on her way out of Lucasfilm. As optimistic as I am, as much as I've loved Star Wars, as much as it's really in a lot of ways shaped who I am growing up as a child, watching the prequels, watching the Star Wars, the Clone Wars, and the originals, I no longer feel for the future of Star Wars. The team at Lucasfilm has made it abundantly clear that they are not interested in giving us what we want. So I'm not going to give them the light of day, and I really fear for what is to come. Now, if you enjoyed what I had to say, please leave me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, especially if you are fed up with the garbage Disney has plagued upon us all. I'm looking forward to discussing just how far Disney will fall in the future. I want it to get better, but I don't think it's getting better anytime soon, within the realm of Lucasfilm. My question for you is, how do you feel about this news though? I was having a great day yesterday until I read the headlines, completely ruined my day. But do you think that Star Wars can turn around this time? Do you think it has a chance? Do you think the next generation will actually look up and start with this new trilogy? Do you think this will set them up the way the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy set us up when we were children? Let's talk about it in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Let's get it fueling in the comments below. As always, though, I appreciate your time you spend with me. I wish you well, and I'll see you soon.